Welcome, guys. This is Half the Story Podcast, Episode 3 with Kyle Graves. Kyle has spent the last 5 years traveling on 5 different continents. His experiences are unique, and his story is one only he can tell. This is his half of the story. Dude, we're live.
All right.
Kyle's a little nervous right now. He's never. Yeah, so Kyle Graves, everyone. So Kyle, tell me, we've known each other since junior high.
I think since second grade.
Probably somewhere along there.
A long time ago.
And I just remember hanging out in high school and going to Quick Star and getting donuts and chocolate milk in your Jeep.
Always chocolate milk.
So I've known Kyle for a long time and known him through high school, through college, and then after college he kind of disappeared. So can you give us a little start on your journey of traveling, where it all started? I know you kind of worked in New Mexico for a while, and that kind of kicked things off a little bit.
Yeah, I think New Mexico is kind of the first thing that kicked it off. It started probably more so, well, it's kind of been a growing thing throughout my life, I guess. I can look back at a lot of different things that happened in my life that kind of sparked my interest. But when I was working at the nursing home as a CNA, I got closer to some of the old people and got to talk to them about life a lot, which was really nice because I feel like they have pretty good advice to give about life when they've already, lived most of theirs.
That's true. True.
So I talked to them a lot about it and stuff because at the time I was working an internship at an oil products company in Waterloo, and I was also working as a CNA at a nursing home. And I had also had this opportunity to go to New Mexico for the summer. I always wanted to go to this ranch in New Mexico. It's one of the 3 major Boy Scout camps, and I never got the chance to go to this one.
As a Boy Scout?
Yeah, I never got the chance as a Boy Scout. I got a chance to go to the one in Florida and the one in Minnesota as a Boy Scout, but I never got a chance to go to the one in New Mexico.
And what's the name of it?
It's called Philmont Scout Ranch. And I'd always wanted to go, and it just turned out that in college I met a girl who worked there, and I thought, well, that's how I could go. I could work there. I hadn't really thought about that. In Iowa, there isn't a lot of seasonal work opportunities where people do things like that, so I hadn't really, seen that as an option. But after talking to her, she said, yeah, just apply and you'll probably get the job, since you were in scouts and everything. And I talked to the oil products company that I was working with, and they said, yeah, go on down, and when the summer's over, come on back and start a new position with us. And when I went down there, I met all these people who were talking about going to work at the ski resort in the wintertime, and they were living in their car and heading off traveling to different places all over the world and stuff. And that hadn't been something that I was ever really exposed to, people actually doing that. I'd always wanted to do something like that, but I just never saw it as an option growing up in Iowa.
So they kind of planted the seed.
Yeah, they definitely planted the seed for me. And one of our mutual friends, Benny, he was living in Australia at the time, and so I had that opportunity. It's kind of through him that it all started, I guess. He showed me this working holiday visa in Australia that you can get.
Yeah, I wanted to talk just a second about that and explain what that is, because I know our buddy Benny did that and then you did it. What is that? What exactly is it?
So it's a really simple visa to get. There's only a few documents you have to provide, and you have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account. You also have to be between 18 and 35 years old. It's available to a lot of different countries, and the United States being one of them. So that's what gave me the opportunity to go.
So it's a year long. You only have a year?
It lasts for 1 year, and after 1 year you have to leave. That's it. You can come back as a tourist, but you can't stay on the working holiday visa after 1 year if you're an American. Some other countries have the option to do some farm work for 3 months, and then they can stay another year. But as an American, it's just 1 year. And you're pretty much a resident of the country, like you're basically an Australian as far as your legal opportunities are concerned. You can find any job you want to find there, just as long as you don't work for more than 6 months at that job. So I just applied for everything over there that I could find, but it was just kind of worked out that one thing led to another, and I met people who presented more opportunities to me, and found jobs that way, I guess.
So let's backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
You get done working out at the scout camp over the summer, and then how long before you went to Australia next, correct?
Yeah. So that summer I decided I'm not going back to this oil products company and signing the 2-year contract.
Right.
They wanted me to sign. That was really scary, the 2-year contract.
Dude, for real.
It's a big commitment right when you get out of college.
Yeah. They have those with occupational therapy, they try and get you in the, and there's pros and cons of it, but they're 2-year contract, 3-year contract. They want you to get in there and they want to make sure you're there, but it is a little scary. I've been thinking about it myself. I'm like, do I really want to sign a 2-year contract?
Right.
But
it seems like a long time. Like in reality, the 2 years, like regardless of what I did, they flew by.
Right.
But at that time, it seemed like a huge amount of time to commit to a job that I wasn't passionate about, and I didn't really particularly enjoy, but I did, feel like it was a good stepping stone in my career.
So was that, you went to college for biology?
Biology.
And is that associated with your degree at all?
Yeah, in a sense, it was in an oil products laboratory doing quality control and maintenance report testing and stuff. So the science background of it related to my degree, and they were interested in having me take on the position.
Okay.
With that degree, but yeah, for me, it just didn't appeal to me, and I mean, I know you gotta stick it out through some shitty jobs in the beginning,
right?
Anyways, but just seeing the other opportunities that I could, take on after working at that ranch, I couldn't go back there and do that. Right.
So you got done at the ranch, then now you're headed to Australia.
Yeah.
You know one person there.
Yeah, I knew one. Well, 2 people. His girlfriend at the time was from Australia, so I had a place to stay when I got there initially and everything, which was a huge help. I don't know if I would have done it otherwise.
Right.
Now I would totally go do it otherwise, but looking back at who I was at that point, I don't think I would have gone to the other side of the world.
It's like perfect time. It's almost perfect timing because
really was.
Perfect situation to
just go,
right?
Because it was a safety net. When I got there, I had that safety net of knowing people.
Yeah.
When I arrived, and they both helped me get on my feet, so over there. So yeah, huge thanks to them.
So what kind of jobs did you do in Australia?
Let's see. I started out doing a little bit of volunteer stuff because it wasn't as easy to find a job as I thought it would be. I was applying for jobs all over this town that we were living in, Newcastle. And nothing was really coming up, nothing that was really interesting to me, I guess. And so I did some volunteering with a wilderness conservation group, and I found a job about a month later. I left Newcastle and found a job at a vineyard, and it was just after the harvest. And so after the harvest, you need to prune back the grapevines to prepare for the next season. And so I had a whole paddock, a whole field that I needed to trim back to prune the grapevines of. And so they paid me $50 per row of grapevines that I picked or that I pruned. And it ended up, it took, at my fastest, I got a whole row done a day. So $50 a day.
Jesus.
And that was from sunrise to sunset.
Right.
You're out there the whole day. And I thought I had carpal tunnel at one point.
Right, I bet.
I was really worried. Like, honestly, just squeezing pruners all day.
Yeah.
It took a toll on my tendons and stuff. Like, not something that's like, oh yeah, I'm, gonna grow from this pain like muscle pain. No.
It was slowly demise.
Yeah, it felt dangerous.
Yeah, those.
But I kept going with it and finished my paddock. Took me about a month to finish it. But it was really nice living out there. I lived in a little shack with an English guy, and we all hung out in this barn and cooked dinner together every evening. But the days were really lonely, because it's just me all by
Right.
myself
Okay. So you
out
weren't
in the
living
field.
with Benny
Oh no,
at
no,
that point.
this was after I'd left Newcastle. I didn't really
Okay.
find anything in Newcastle, and I found this opportunity through a Facebook group
Right.
um, that I was part of. It's all these Americans who live in Australia, and I just posted on Facebook. I said, "Hey, I'm, new in Australia, and I'm on this visa, and I'm looking for a job pretty much anywhere in Australia. I'm willing to go
Right.
at this point to find some work." And a lady commented back, and she said, "Well, my husband has this farm, and we're looking for grapevine pruners." And so I just went.
Right.
I hopped on the train the next day and went. It was about 7 hours west of Sydney, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and it was cold. I was there for the 4th of July that year, and it was cold because it's their winter, and I think we even got a little bit of frost
Really?
and stuff.
Cold and alone in the middle of Australia.
Yeah.
Pruning vines
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah, kind of. There were a lot of nice people there. Other travelers, other people
Right.
on the same visa. There were no other Americans there, but there were people from all over Europe and stuff. And that's what I started to find is that there were all these other people kind of doing the same thing that I was doing, and they had the same sort of visions, with their life, to fill their lives, or at least their lives at the moment, with these experiences and stuff, and to kind of, rough it out a little bit,
Right.
just for the experience, I guess.
So once you finally left Newcastle and you're kind of on your own,
Mm-hmm.
the training wheels are off, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh hells yeah, I'm taking this. I'm not stopping here.
Yeah,
Just keep
yeah.
going.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was called Leeton, in the town where I was working on the grapevines. I was talking to the other people that were there, and they were at different stages in their visas. Some of them had been there already a year, and so they were talking about how they bought a car and drove all around Australia, or they went down to Tasmania and hiked and did all this stuff. And I didn't think of that I could do all that stuff. It just didn't hit me at first that I could kind of go and do whatever I wanted in Australia.
Right.
So I got all these ideas in my head, and heard about all these other opportunities. I found another job online actually when I was there, because I was thinking, what am I gonna do when my field's finished? I gotta leave and find something else.
They kick you out.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta start paying rent. If you're not working
Right.
at this farm, you gotta start paying to stay there instead. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to stay there kind of without work. It wasn't that amazing.
So how'd you get like food and stuff there? Was this out? Was this by a little town or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was outside of a small town in Australia, and every Sunday I think it was we'd all hop in the fruit shack van and drive to the supermarket, and everybody would get all their food for the week, and then we'd come back. There were probably 12 or 15 of us working there at the time. I know there's a lot more when they're actually harvesting,
Right.
but I was there after that.
That's interesting. So where do you go on from there? So you're working through Australia.
Yeah.
You're getting down to your last month, your last few days now. What's in your head? What's your plan?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it was a whole year, so a whole bunch of stuff happened, and really, it just goes back to the same story. I met more people who told me about more things to do, and told me about their experiences and the things that they did. And so for me, this is all planting ideas in my head and making me see that these dreams can be a reality.
Right.
And so, yeah, the year's winding down. I've just finished some nice hikes and road trips with some really great people. And it got kind of lonely, actually, because towards the end there, I was with a big group of Germans, mostly Germans, on a road trip all through the west coast of Australia. And we were together for almost 2 months, probably, together every day, all day. You get to know people really well.
Especially when you're by yourself.
Yeah, yeah, you're all alone, in this, on the other side of the world. And you meet these people, and you know them for a week. And you tell somebody back home, like, oh yeah, I met some people, and I've known them for a week now. It's crazy, like it's a long time. But in the back home world, knowing somebody for a week is like, what, you hung out with them like 4 hours on the weekend. Maybe you saw them one night.
You maybe put them on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. but when I was traveling, it was like you're with that person day and night, constantly. So you know them for one day, you've known them already 24 whole hours together, in the best and the worst of times. And then they all went their separate ways after the road trip, and I was kind of alone in Darwin, and I didn't really know what to do. I really wanted to go to Bali because in Australia everybody goes to Bali for vacation. It's kind of like the Mexico, the Cancun of Australia. Okay. So I was like, maybe I should go check out Bali on my way home, and see what that's like. And I'll just kind of plan from there. I didn't really have a specific plan on how I was going to get home.
Were you able to save money during this year?
Yeah. Because I was able to work, I saved up a bit of money. And so I had more money when I left Australia than what I did when I came to Australia. So that's one thing a lot of people ask me about is, like, how are you able to afford traveling like this? And I tell them, like, honestly, it's cheaper and you can make money doing it. I mean, not as much money if I were to stay home and have to sign that contract. Yeah. I'd have a lot more money, obviously. But I made just sacrifices in my the way I live, I guess. Right. Sacrifices as far as comfort are concerned, really, is what it comes down to. In exchange for these experiences, and you can afford it, if you make those sacrifices in the comfort. Right. Like the shirt that I have here, I've probably had for 10 years. I don't really I don't really spend too much money on like material things if I don't have to. So that's how I'm able to.
Was that something that was really reinforced while you were traveling too? Just
definitely.
You already were kind of like that, but you were like,
I was already kind of like that for sure. But when you have to carry everything on your back, really quick you decide what's important to have and what's not. And when you're not having an income coming in, you really decide, what do I need to buy and what can I save money for, Right. So it was a good lesson in all of those things for me, which is something that I was looking for before I left. I wanted to kind of be pushed to those limits. But anyways, everybody left, and I'm in Darwin by myself, kind of deciding what's next. I'm planning to go home. It's been a year, and I get to Bali, and I met a whole new group of people right away. And
traveling just like you.
Yeah, a whole new group of people they were also just traveling. They all had their interesting stories, and we all bonded over those, and we traveled together. And it kind of hit me there with that group of people that I wasn't really ready to go home yet. So
was it
the trip continued, I guess.
When you say you weren't ready to go home, did you just want to see more, or you wanted to keep pushing yourself just to see what was possible?
Yeah, so I had this whole year in one country, in Australia, that's not a lot different from the United States, relatively speaking. There's a lot of differences, and I really enjoyed those differences. Like, it seems like it's a lot more relaxed of a country. People seem a lot more relaxed and easygoing, and that was something I really enjoyed about Australia. And little things like that you notice, and the language is different. Even though they speak English, it's not
their mannerisms.
Yeah. There's these little things that are all different, and so it was really fun for the year, getting to learn and know those things about Australia. And I would love to be there longer, but I had to go. And then I get to Bali. And if I thought Australia was a little bit different than something I'd known before, like, Bali was a lot different. And so then I started getting excited about
other places.
Yeah, cultural differences, being curious about different foods and all these other things. And so that's when it was like kind of a whole new ball game, I guess. Right. Once I got there, and I was, so when I say I wasn't really ready to go home, it was like, whoa, this is new. This is exciting again.
Yeah, I like this.
And I want to see more. So yeah, that's what kind of kept me from going home right away when I got to.
So you're hanging out in Bali, chilling with the homies, thinking about all these possibilities, and then are you working there, or are you on the next ticket out?
No, at this point, I had enough money saved up that I felt comfortable, and yeah, I was just there, kind of taking it day by day. You know, it was just one morning that I was with all these guys, and they weren't really too fond of Bali. There's a area in Bali that's um, it's really touristy with Australian miners and stuff, and it's like
Right.
it's like a really big party place, you know,
Right.
like you can imagine spring break Cancun. You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like that all the time, and it's fun for a day or two, you know, but after a
Yeah.
while, it's like you want to go see something else,
Yeah.
and so we woke up one morning and we decided, let's go to the other island over. Let's go to Lombok because we're in Indonesia, and Indonesia has all these islands.
And that's like the real Indonesia.
Yeah, well, it was a lot different from Bali. So Bali's a lot different culturally, regardless. But then Bali is this tourist area.
Melting pot.
Yeah, well, it's just they have a different religion there and stuff, so it's been different for a long time, and everything, than pretty much the rest of Indonesia. So that was really cool to see. But then it's also really different tourist wise, you know, and
Right.
that was kind of the thing that we wanted to see if we could find something different and go somewhere where it was a little bit less crowded. And so yeah, we went to Lombok together, and that was, yeah, it was a whole different world. It was really nice and quiet, and these small villages everywhere. There weren't big, you know, towers, hotels, and all those
Right.
things that we had seen when we were in Bali. So we really enjoyed that. And I remember one morning getting up, and we rented a motorcycle, and I took it with a French girl up to the top of this sort of peak, this small peak, and just feeling like I was in a movie. I couldn't believe it, you know, seeing all the like kind of smoke billowing up from people's fires. I realized later that they were burning their garbage. That's pretty much,
Well.
you know, that's the only way they have
Right.
to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But at first I thought it was people's cooking fires or
Yeah.
something that all the smoke was coming up from, and it just looked really nice with the sun coming up, and you have these big sort of karst features all over, and people are farming them. You know, they're rice paddies. They're out there with their what are they called? The water buffalo. You know, doing work and everything, and it's just like, wow, I'm in a movie. I'm inside of a postcard.
Right.
So I was really excited, and I wanted to see more of that. Because honestly, it kind of reminded me of what I always imagined Vietnam was like. You know, like growing up seeing
Right.
Vietnam War movies and stuff, you see those scenes. And that's a lot of what this day in Indonesia reminded me of in
Right.
Lombok. And so it kind of put this seed in my mind that I wanna see Vietnam before
Yeah.
I go home. You know, so that was there, but yeah, I just wanted
Okay.
to continue.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about this off air before, and for me and for other people who know you, we followed your journey a little bit, and
Mhm.
we'd see all these cool pictures of you driving all the way up on the mountain, and a picture of the landscape and everything.
Yeah.
And all these pictures are beautiful, and
Yeah.
you're smiling in every picture, but it wasn't always like that probably when you were traveling, right?
No,
it's
it's-
not all Instagram photo picture perfect.
No, there's a lot of stuff that you see that kind of, you know, you wish the world wasn't that way.
Right.
You know, when you see garbage everywhere, for me, I really hate litter and trash and everything like that. Just, you know, when people aimlessly throw it. And
Especially in like rivers and streams,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like their water sources just polluted.
yeah, exactly. So you see stuff like that where it's, you know, for one, it's a matter of education, but for two, it's a matter of, you know, does this country even have the means to care about
The
you know,
infrastructure to
the infrastructure to take care of it? You know,
Yeah.
like, is that their main priority? You know,
Right.
when they don't have a lot of funds to work with. So
Yeah.
so you kind of see it, and you see like, oh man, it's, you know, it's not the same as it
Yeah.
is in you know, first world countries where we have that luxury of taking care of our garbage. So at first I was just thinking, why are people throwing trash everywhere, you know? But then you learn more about their situation and stuff.
Right.
And so you see things like that, like piles of garbage, and you see people that are living in ways that I mean, kind of coming from like where I grew up, you know, in the world, it doesn't look like it's a good way to live and everything, and you know, you're feeling, I don't know, it's like this guilt that you feel at the same time, but then you talk to the people and they don't feel that way about themselves, you know, they don't feel like they're living in, a lot of times they don't, or they don't say that they feel, I don't know, their life could be
they're still
better.
happy.
Yeah,
like,
it's
they're
really
happy
hard
with what they have, as
exactly.
opposed to
Exactly. Yeah,
you know.
it's I haven't fully wrapped my mind around this part of it.
Right.
It's tough to think about because on the one hand you kind of feel like an asshole for being there, but then on the other hand, you know, they want most of those people want you to be there because you're helping their economy
right,
and stuff too. So it's this weird balance, and I don't know still how I feel about it. I like to have conversations with other people who've kind of had those experiences, and help myself work through it a little bit.
right.
You know, because anywhere that you travel to, you're going to see the poverty like that and stuff, and just not knowing what you can do to help is tough.
Yeah,
or if helping is even something you know, it's what do they want, you know?
Right.
Do they, you know, maybe they don't even want you to come there, or maybe that, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it would be hard to adjust at first, but
yeah. So for me, it wasn't something that I had thought about beforehand, but then I saw it, and I'm still, I don't know if I'll ever be able to, you know, come up with like an answer or a solution
but like for most people, including myself, you know, we'll go on a vacation to Mexico.
Yeah.
And you land at the airport, you take a cab or a taxi to your resort, and then you stay on your resort.
Yeah.
So you miss all the stuff in between, and that's what you were living in.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not inside the resorts.
Right.
Yeah. And that was something, because I have done that before. I've gone to Mexico and taken a cab straight to a resort. And stuff, and you don't see that stuff. You don't see the parts of society that you don't want to see. You know, the difficult things to think about.
It's almost like we're just like,
you're in this bubble.
Let's pretend.
Exactly. And then,
but you seek that out.
Well, yeah, I kind of tried to put myself into it, so that I could maybe build an understanding about it. And like I said, it's still something that I struggle to, you know, wrap my mind around.
But for me, at least, and other people, I think that's scary to do because there's so much unknowns that you don't know. If you're in a culture that you don't speak the language, you don't, you know, being out in their world is scary, and that's what I think.
You don't really have the safety net, I think.
And how would you say? Do you just dive on in, or do you?
Pretty much.
That's the only way to do it.
No, I don't think it's the only way to do it. It's actually, even if I were to talk with some other like traveling friends, I think they would say I'm a little extreme when I do. But I've also met other people that I would say are really extreme, you know, too. So it's all relative. But for me, a lot of times I like to try to find the cheapest way I can do it. You know, whatever it is, you know, get from point A to point B, or to have a place to sleep that night or whatever. I like to try to find the most inexpensive way, mostly because it's it's more of a challenge. To do it that way, you know, I always try to spend my money in places where I feel like it's going straight to the people there, rather than to maybe, I don't know, somebody who owns a big hotel or whatever. They create jobs too, you know, but I always try to be mindful of where I'm spending my money and stuff. But
when you talk about money, the thing that really I just get nervous right away is carrying all the money you own on you.
Yeah, I don't carry everything. I carry a card, like a debit card.
Okay. Is it like you can load money onto it?
No, I mean, yeah, the debit card, I guess, has access to to all the money that I have potentially. But
because you're thinking if you're ever in some sketchy situations, you know, people are like, hey, don't go to this part of town or that part of town, you'll get robbed. Like, that would make me nervous to, you know, if they see they see a white guy from
Yeah.
America, and
Oh yeah, you definitely stand out in a lot of
yeah,
places. You know, depending on how you look. If you look different than the local people,
right.
you're gonna really stand out.
So you
And
never had any problems really with that?
I've had some things happen here
Right,
and there
right.
where I stood out a little bit too much maybe.
A
Um,
little sketchy.
yeah, I mean I'm sure almost every day you know you're dealing with people who want to scam you and stuff. So coming from Iowa, this is a thing that I've kind of struggled with is ignoring people
Right.
when you're walking down the street. Even just in Chicago
Yeah.
over the weekend, I had the same issue where you're walking down the street and somebody's yelling, "Hey, hey!" Like they want to talk to you, and you know that their ultimate goal is
Right.
to get money from you,
Yeah.
but and I've
It's
been
hard.
trying
It's
to
hard.
work on just
Right.
ignoring and continuing, because
Yeah. You're a very sociable person, and it's hard for. I mean, it's hard for anyone because every time you walk by and you don't say anything,
I feel
you feel like a
so
little part
bad.
of you dies. You're like, God, I'm a bad person.
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel so guilty about it. But if I did that,
For every person,
yeah, exactly.
you couldn't get down the street.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't have anything left. I mean,
Right.
I'm not a wealthy person by
Yeah.
any means. I do try to help when I can, but I mean, I can't save.
There's only so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't save the world on my own.
Right.
It's funny. One of my German friends that I traveled with, that's what we'd always say because we both struggled with this, and we'd just be like, I mean, we can't, we
Right.
can't save the world on our own. We're spending the money where we need to, and hopefully
Right.
mindfully enough that it's helping people
Someone
out.
here. Yeah.
But we can't help everyone. So I try to put my blinders on sometimes and walk past
It's
the
just,
people that I know are scamming me because every day that happens.
right.
That even little children and stuff, and that's really heartbreaking to see the children
Yeah.
out asking for money and stuff like that. But I feel as though giving money to the children will only perpetuate because a lot of times the parent is sitting somewhere.
It's like a puppet.
Yeah, yeah, and they're using the child in that way. And
Right.
if everyone would stop giving money to the children, hopefully they'd be able to
Right.
spend their day at school rather than doing something
Hustling.
like that. So just little things like that. But I have had, I guess, in Paris, I was robbed.
Okay.
That was a while.
Gunpoint, knife point.
No, knife point.
Okay.
Knife point.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah, I was on the side of the highway, kind of towards the edge of town, trying to hitchhike. I think I was hitchhiking to Brussels that day was my
Right.
plan, and I was by myself, and this guy came walking down the side of the highway towards me, and
You could see him from like a football field, and you're like, oh crap, we're getting closer.
well, I mean,
What am I gonna say to him?
it wasn't like I knew he was coming.
No,
for
I know,
me,
but that awkward where you know you're gonna pass him at one point.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him coming, and I was like, oh great, here he comes. Because then it got more obvious that he wanted to say something to me.
Right.
As the time went on, and he obviously started speaking in French. I told him I didn't understand, and then he started speaking to me in perfect English, and that really bummed me out. I was hoping he didn't know English, but he told me that he was really angry because he had just gotten out of jail.
Well.
And he hadn't eaten since he was in jail. And I had food in my backpack, and I said, I have some food in my backpack, I'll give you some food right now. And he said, no, I can buy my own food, give me some money. And I was like, if I had enough money to just be handing out, I'd be on a bus probably to the next
Right.
town rather. I mean, I enjoy hitchhiking and for these reasons, I guess, of these, random things happening, but not enough.
So he took your money.
Yeah, well, I mean, he kept insisting that I give him my money, and it's pretty stupid. You usually should just give them your money, right away, because a lot of these people don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
But I kind of resisted and stuff, and I was able to position myself with my backpack kind of as a shield between us and stuff. But I didn't feel that threatened, just really annoyed by him.
Were you trying to like walk away and he's kept on
Yeah,
following
I
you
was
and
trying to
stuff?
back away and stuff, and he was getting aggressive with me, trying to intimidate me, and it was working because,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
what this guy's capable of. He's
Right.
telling me he just got out of jail. It sounds like he has nothing to
All bets are
lose.
off.
Yeah, and so I was pretty scared,
Yeah.
and I'm backing away and everything, and just trying to figure out what the best thing I should do in this situation is. And it was, I mean, looking back on it, I wish I was in situations like this a bit more because it was really good,
Right.
like brain training, I
Yeah.
guess. But
Hyper focused.
yeah, I was very focused on the moment and trying to work through the situation. And yeah, I should maybe put that on my resume actually.
Right.
But
Survived the
yeah.
robbery.
But eventually he had a knife like in his pocket, and I didn't even know if it was really a knife at first, but he poked something through his like hoodie pocket and asked if I knew if he was being serious. And I said, I don't know if you're being serious. And then he pulled it out, and it was a small knife.
Right.
And at that point, I did decide to take the coin. I had some euro coins in my pocket that I gave to him, but I didn't want to pull my wallet out because I know he's not going to wait for me
To count.
Yeah,
Like,
sift
here,
through like, yeah, maybe
here's $10 for a
here you
Big
go,
Mac.
maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's not, he's not gonna.
He's
do
gonna
that.
snatch it.
So yeah, and that had everything in it. So I was doing everything I could to avoid pulling it out if I could. So I gave him the euro coins, and then at that point, I just kind of like threw my backpack on my back and made like a swift walk over to this bus stop that I saw.
Were there
Not
people
too far
over
away.
there?
There were people there.
Okay.
A few people crowded over there, and he was following me, yelling stuff at me that it wasn't enough money and everything. And eventually, he kind of diverted his direction once we got close. So that was really, the only time that I've experienced, someone physically.
Right. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, he did a good job, I guess. He
Wonder what he's doing now.
4 euros for me. Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe I don't think a lot of people hitchhike from that spot. So I don't know. He got lucky I was there.
We have a negative connotation with hitchhiking in the United States.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's probably not that way around the world. It's probably very common practice. And did you do a lot of that?
Well, Alaska, for example, they have a pretty positive, and I think Hawaii does too.
Okay.
A little bit different, but that's just something that I learned recently over the summer in Alaska. I hitchhiked all over the place in Alaska, but I think it just kind of depends. Like how we were just talking about the United States. It depends on where you're at.
Right.
Definitely here there's a negative connotation about it, but in Australia I didn't find as much. There were a lot of people who would talk to me about this movie called Wolf Creek.
Okay.
Which is, I think, based on a true story.
It's an American movie?
No, it's an Australian movie.
Okay.
And it's based on an Australian guy who would pick up hitchhikers and kill them.
Right.
And bury them somewhere. I think in one of the national parks.
Right.
And so people would always reference that movie when I said I was going to hitchhike there.
Yeah.
And stuff. I still have to see the movie. I haven't seen it yet.
Just like when you go to the beach, they reference
Yeah.
Jaws.
Yeah, exactly. So people would always talk about this movie to me and stuff, but I had an easy time hitchhiking in Australia, and I try to hitchhike in every country that I go to. So I've had some interesting experiences hitchhiking in countries where you can't understand the language.
Yeah.
And people don't.
Go this way.
Yeah, you just point, like, I see that your car is driving this way, so I'm, hoping that you continue driving that way because that's the way I want to go.
Right.
Then you try to make that apparent.
Then he turns around and you're like,
fingers.
whoa.
Yeah, no, okay, let me out here.
Yeah, I'll go this way, you go that way.
But it's interesting because I think a lot of times, people have no clue what you're doing.
Can you pull your mic back just a little bit? I don't know how loud it is.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, people don't really know what exactly you're doing. A lot of times they're stopping to ask you, if you need help or what's going on, but you can't understand what they're saying. Yeah. And it just kind of turns into a hitchhiking from there,
Right.
They don't stop unless they want to, and so they're curious about you and stuff, and you get in. And I've had a lot of really good experiences with people. I'll take my phone out and show them, like, an American flag and point at myself so that they know where I'm from.
Right.
try to find pictures on my phone, of family or whatever, and they'll do the same back with their phone. They'll show me their family and show me little things, and so you have little exchanges like that with people. And I've been invited into people's homes,
get some food,
hitchhiking, yeah, and they're happy to cook dinner for you or whatever, and
that's cool, and
stuff, or take you out somewhere or whatever. Just people that are curious about foreigners because they're just going about their day-to-day lives, and
in comes this alien.
Yeah, something comes up and they're like, "Whoa, this is interesting."
Right.
And
yeah.
So they want to learn more about you, and I think that's kind of what it's all about for me, is those experiences where I get to know people a little bit more from around the world.
Right. So I know we've kind of been all over the place here, but talk about a little bit about maybe a few, I know we touched on a little bit, but like kind of avoiding the scams, mistakes that you've made, things to like seek out, like for people that are wanting to travel, like what's some good strategies or think like, hey, make sure to not do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Anything like that for people that are getting ready to travel, some hard-earned experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think specifically about it. I mean, I know I make mistakes every day when I'm like every moment. It isn't maybe the best decision.
Right.
Maybe the whole traveling thing isn't the best decision. I don't know, but I feel like it's constantly a learning process.
Right.
And that's what's really enjoyable for me about it. As far as if someone else wanted to travel, it's the way that they want to travel. Because like for me, I don't really know much about any other kind of traveling except for like this long-term budget traveling that I'm doing, so I can't really comment on, maybe some people want to go on a different type of trip,
right.
That, so it's, I guess, first thinking about like, how do you want to travel? What's your budget like? How long do you want to go? What do you want to get out of it? I guess those are some things to first think about, and then that'll kind of push you in the direction of maybe, where you want to go, and what sort of experiences you might be looking for there, as far as maybe sightseeing the whole time,
right.
or if you want to stay and maybe volunteer somewhere, or if you're looking to find a country that you can legally work in.
Right. So kind of along those lines, so like how much planning do you actually do?
I do the least amount possible.
Right. You figure it out on the fly.
Yeah. I would prefer to figure it out day by day, because you just never know who you're going to meet that's going to present some opportunity to you that you never could have even known about.
So don't have a plan, kind of.
That's the way I do it. Yeah, I don't like to have a plan, because every day is like that's what makes it exciting, is I don't know what's going to happen,
That's true.
Especially when I'm hitchhiking and stuff, like I don't even know where I'm going to end up by the end of the day, and for me that's what I like, and so that's what's exciting, and I don't know what problems or puzzles I'll have to solve for the day. So for me, I do a very minimal amount of planning. It's probably a bit reckless, but I kind of want
young and reckless.
I just want it to be that way,
right?
But
makes you stay on your toes. Makes it.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's kind of what I'm looking for, is character building, maybe.
Right.
For lack of a better word, but.
So I got some more juicy questions for you.
Oh, great.
So we all want to know: is there any love stories in these travels?
I feel like we gotta talk about this at a different time. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, you always meet people, but
do you still keep in contact with a lot of the people you meet, or?
Yeah, I mean, I really want. I don't keep in contact with everybody every day. Like when I'm gone, I do a terrible job at keeping in touch with people at home, and when I'm at home, I do a terrible job at keeping in touch with people, friends from other places. But it's cool because now with Facebook and everything, you can kind of have your address book, online, so you have all these people that in different places, and I love, messaging people and,
Right.
Catching up with people and
Yeah.
stuff. And the cool thing is that I end up seeing through social media that somebody that I hung out with, over here is now here, and I'm in the same spot, so I
Right.
can meet up with people again, and reconnect. So I love that. That's probably one of the most important things to me are those relationships,
Right.
even though they're not a constant day to day thing.
Yeah.
When I do get to get back in touch with people, I
Right.
love that.
Well, and like kind of you said earlier, like some of those people you bond with really quick
Yeah,
because
you're with them so much,
yeah,
so you're
it's almost accelerated
oh,
your friendship.
definitely, and that's what I was going to talk about too, like with relationships and stuff. Like when you're traveling, I've felt like everyone I've met kind of understood that, like, hey, we're together now.
Eventually, we're gonna leave each other.
Yeah, but
right.
everybody just knows it's not like with it goes without saying that we're not. This isn't like forever.
Right.
We're gonna get to a certain point where we part ways.
Damn, that's some love story. Right? It's not forever.
Yeah, it's not forever. So you just enjoy your time with the person, and things are very accelerated. Things like move way more quickly than they would in regular life, I guess. But I've always found that was like an understanding, and I thought that was really cool because it's just like, I don't know, it just takes the drama out of it. You don't have to have any drama really, because it's not, you're not really working towards forever. You know, everybody's still kind of doing their own
enjoying the time that you do have. And
yeah, so I found that with other travelers that I've met and had relationships, like short relationships with, that's how it was, that's how it went. And yeah,
I'm sure there's more to it, and everything with it, like you kind of said. It's an interesting little subtopic, I guess.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, other people that I've met, they're not necessarily travelers. They're they're in their everyday life,
right?
And I just kind of barge into their everyday life in some way.
Yeah.
And so for that's a little bit more difficult because, a lot of times the person that you meet that is a local person in whatever place you're at, they're not with that traveling mindset.
Right. So they get a little heartbroken.
Well, I mean, it's just more to talk about. It's not things going unspoken.
Right.
It's like you gotta actually talk about this and make it obvious right from the bat. Like, hey, I'm just here,
passing through.
Yeah, I'm just here until a certain day. Like, hang out, and I love to hang out with local people because I feel like they have a really good knowledge of their home.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people enjoy showing foreigners around their home and stuff. So it's nice for me to have those exchanges and stuff, but you just gotta make sure that you like lay it out right away that you're not gonna be there forever.
Right. That's interesting.
I've had difficulty with that before.
Right.
So those are the kind of two different relationships I guess I could talk about, are the ones with the traveler people and the ones with the everyday people just living their lives.
Kind of along that line would be like when we think of people traveling the world, we might have our own perceptions or thoughts about them. In your experiences, what kind of themes are of these people? Is there a theme of the people traveling the world?
Other travelers?
Yeah, are they searching for something? Are they rich white kids that all this money, or are they?
They're everything.
They're everything.
They're just as diverse as the people that you meet everywhere else. That's a good question, though. It's a really good question. But yeah, they're rich, white kids who are out and just
spending their dad's money.
Yeah, I mean, just traveling, and they, a lot of people go out just to party.
Right.
And so they're trying to find all the party spots. And you meet people who are out and they've taught English for a year somewhere, and now they're traveling around. You meet people who are out, just like for a few weeks. You meet people that are just out traveling for a few weeks who are between jobs, and just really it's everyone. I feel like I've met someone from every single
background or story.
every single background and story,
Right.
exactly, you know. So
Yeah,
um
I was kind of wondered like what. I mean, I think it's in everyone. Everyone kind of has that wanderlust to travel.
uh-huh.
Um, but I think it's just overcoming that first step of actually
It's
doing it. And
Yep,
those people that
that's exactly what it is.
actually take the dive off the diving board are the ones that end up.
Are out there, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is going back to your question of any like advice or mistakes or anything that I feel like I have. I guess just taking that first step, just buying the flight ticket to somewhere, you know, is
Knowing you bought that, so now you have to go.
yeah,
Like close your eyes, click it,
Yep.
it's bought.
Yeah, I feel like that's all it really is. I mean, obviously there's so much more that goes
Right.
into it, like making sure that everything at home is going to be okay, you know, storing stuff and everything. So there's a lot that goes into it. And
Right.
There's a certain amount of you know, being in the right situation in your
Right,
life and
right.
being lucky enough to be able to do it. Not everybody can just do that.
Yeah.
But it's
If you're a single mom with two
Yeah,
kids,
exactly.
working
Like,
two jobs,
yeah.
it's going to be hard for you to pick up.
you wouldn't be able to do it, you know.
Right.
And so it's not for everyone, and the opportunity, I guess, isn't there for everyone. But the thing is the opportunity is there for more people than they
Realize. Right.
Yeah. That's what I've seen,
Right.
because the amount of money I've had to spend on it is way less
Right.
than what I thought I would need to. You know, I'm not rich by any means
Right.
to, you know, just go out and buy fancy hotel rooms every
Yeah.
night. Like there's options for people who don't have the money to be able to do stuff like that.
Right.
And it's just like, I feel like even since I first left in 2014, it's even gotten easier. There's even more on the internet now as far as
How to do it on a budget.
YouTube videos. Like I've been watching YouTube videos about Japan because I'm planning to go there next.
Right.
And there's YouTube videos about everything. There's a YouTube video about how to get from the specific airport that I'm flying into in Tokyo, how to get from there into the city, you know, all the options
Right.
that you have. I don't remember a YouTube video about that when I went first to Thailand,
Right.
you know, a few years ago and stuff. And then there's all these groups online with
Yeah.
other travelers. Like, that's another thing is, like, it's not unique that I'm doing this. When I come back home to Iowa, it's unique, but
Right.
there's so many people traveling just like this, like all over the world. It's
Right.
just like I don't meet
It's
many people from Iowa that are.
it's
doing
hard
it.
to comprehend the amount of people doing it
Oh,
when we live in this little bubble
yeah,
and we only have you and a couple other people to reference on.
Yeah.
You don't think about it, but
exactly.
obviously it's happening, you know.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to the culture here of kind of the steps that you take in life, and the leaving for a
Right.
few years to travel doesn't really fit into that.
Right.
And also there isn't I think a lot of it is also the seasonal work. People having opportunities to work at like a ski resort for the winter, or
Right.
work at a camp for the summer or something. And there's not a lot of those opportunities here, but I find in a lot in the West, you know, where people have those opportunities more. A lot more people will take their off season to go travel and things
Okay.
like that. So it's a lot more common, you know, in those
Right.
areas. And I feel like I fit in
Right.
there, but then when I come home, I feel like I'm more unique,
Yeah.
which is,
Definitely are.
which is kind of funny because like then I can just leave here and I'm just back to being like another person,
Right.
you know, another traveler.
Cool. Well, I have a couple more questions for you. I know we haven't even scratched the surface of your traveling because we got from Australia to Bali, and I know there's so much more after that.
Yeah.
That's
It's
for
too
another.
much.
That's for another episode.
Yeah, there's way too much.
But this might seem kind of like a silly question, but I just thought of it.
Uh-huh.
With you traveling, and I know you're planning to travel in the future, have you thought about your future after traveling? And do you worry about being quote unquote behind?
Yeah, I worry about that all the time.
Okay.
I was just talking with a friend about that last night. I worry about it more and more. You know, when I first started, I guess in 2014, 2013, I didn't worry about it as much because we were kind of all, all my peers were fresh out of college, and we were all kind of like, what are we doing with our lives, and that was the thing that everybody was doing. But now I've been at home since October now, so it's been, a few months. This is the longest period of time I've spent at home since 2013.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of tough in that sense to, to
see people getting married, having families and all that stuff. And
and to kind of see like where will I fit in when I'm done,
But I also think it's a silly question because I know that material objects and that kind of thing really don't mean as much to you as other people. And
but then I still need to be, I need to build my nest egg or whatever they call it, I need to be working towards those things. And there's a lot of stuff I should be paying for different, like if I was at home, I need to be paying for the car and the car insurance and maybe paying for a house. And
401k
and all these things
building up
that I'm not currently, I don't need currently. So I'm not paying towards any of those things currently, and I'm not really setting aside money to do that necessarily either. So I worry about it a lot and more and more. But at this point, I feel like the 5 years or so that I do this won't set me behind too much. And what really is being behind, I guess, too.
It's all that's question. It's a figure,
and everything. But I worry about it a lot. I definitely do more and more. And being home doesn't help. So I'm excited to get back on the road around. I'll be sitting with people at a hostel where there's like 40-year-old people over here that are living the same life as me, and then I'm like, okay,
I got some years left.
Like it's fine. It's all gonna be fine. But I don't have those people around me here to be an example of like life.
Well, one of the things before I contemplated going back to school, and eventually when I did go back to school, a big reason I went back to school is, I thought I probably was 20, going on 26 years old, and I was like, man, I'm already too old to go back to school, even though I'm getting my master's. Like, I'm already too old. But in the grand scheme of things, if I'm out working or something by 30 or 35, even say you never went to college, like my buddy, Nate Stout, his dad didn't even go to college till he was 30. He didn't start till he was like 30. If you think about it, you're working until you're at least 65. At least 65. That's a whole 30-year career, 35-year career you still have left, and you haven't even entered it. So I don't think you're behind. I was just curious. And I think a lot of people,
it's a great question. Really
would be saying, aren't you worried about this, or you don't have that nest egg yet.
It's something that I've been struggling with for sure. So it's a great question, and I guess there are a couple of ways that I try to look at it. Like, I've been trying to look at myself more as this is the youngest that I'm ever going to be right now. I feel like a lot of times I look at it and say like, oh, this is the oldest I've ever been. Like,
but it's
wow, like, and if you kind of flop it around, and say like, oh, I'm, going to college, going back to school now or whatever, like this is the youngest I'm ever going to be right now. So of course I'm young enough to go back. Like, I could go back in 10 years, and I'd be 10 years older, and maybe, it's all, your perspective, the way you look at it, because in 10 years I'd be 10 years older, but I'm still the youngest I'm ever going to be.
I think probably one of the greatest things that you can take from your travels would be living in the moment, and not because you're living day to day. You're not thinking about what all of us are thinking about. Is that because everyone's thinking, hey, future, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. But
I'm trying to do that more, and I'm also trying not to do it as much. I guess it's a funny.
But you get that little bit of living in the moment that we don't get. And I think that's something that's very valuable.
I've enjoyed it, and it definitely helps me to think about the moment. I when I'm traveling, I keep a journal every day, and I could flip through any of my journals and look at that day and read the first couple lines, and the whole day comes back to me.
That's awesome.
And for me to have maybe in the end 5 years of years where I remember every single day you know, because I did something that was valuable and memorable and a lesson learned every day that those were years well spent. And I feel like it's a foundation that I'm building the rest of my life.
Right.
On top of. And I know a lot of people talk about, well, why don't you just, I mean, for example, I don't know if anybody's actually ever told me this, but like you could retire and travel after you retire.
Right.
You know, but the way that I travel is
that's not guaranteed either.
Yeah,
it's not guaranteed you're going to retire. You're not going to live to that age, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed.
And the way that I want to travel isn't going to be as easy at that point in my life.
Yeah.
Either. But more importantly, the foundation that I'm trying to build, I can't build it on top of the end of my life. I mean, not that your life isn't valuable then, but I want to have the lessons that I'm learning throughout my life. You know,
you don't want to go all the way up here and say, "Wow, I wish I knew that when I was 20."
Yeah, I guess.
You kind of want to start building it now.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you could live a life without doing that and learn the lessons along the way. You know, everybody learns the same lessons in different ways, I think.
Right.
This is just the way that I want to do it, you know. So I always try to emphasize, too, that, like, this, you know, making this decision is just something that fits with me, you know, and everybody makes their own decisions the best way that fits with themselves and stuff. Like, I don't think anybody should, you know, go traveling like this if they don't have a desire to do it. You know? It's not a better decision than anybody else's decisions. And so, you know, when I come home and talk to people, it's like other people have learned the same lessons that I learned on the road, but they learned it with their family, you know, with their kids or at their new job and all this stuff. Like, I don't have those experiences of having a family of my own or having, you know, a longer career. So those are lessons I still have to learn. Yeah. So
that's good. So last question. I know we haven't even scratched the surface, but what's next for you? I know.
So I guess kind of what developed, I think, during my year in Asia was sort of like a goal that I wanted to look towards with my traveling, because it was kind of aimless for a while. I mean, I had these ideas of, before I left, I wanted to become better socially. I wanted to be able to just walk up to someone and be able to hold a conversation with a stranger. That was something that I didn't feel like I could do before I left, and it was something I wanted to be able to do. And now I definitely feel like I've gotten to that level.
It's a little different around here. I feel like people in the United States are kind of not as receptive, I feel like. Depends.
It depends. I think people are very friendly. I mean, I've encountered friendly people everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare, I guess, and I don't like to.
I'm not saying we're not friendly. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people are on their phones minding their business, and like, even if you're waiting in line at, you know, Starbucks or whatever you're at, everyone's on their phone. No one, if like you try talking to someone, it's like,
they're gonna be like, what?
Awkward.
You know. And that's true. I found yesterday I rode the bus back from Chicago yesterday. I was sitting next to someone on the bus, and I just decided to kind of break the ice with her, just to I don't know, it's just kind of like weird to sit down next to her and not say hello, you know? So I said hey and asked her a little bit about like what she was doing and everything, and we ended up talking the entire 3-hour bus ride back and stuff, and it was great. And I was thinking about that, and I don't think I would have done that
a few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago. I don't think I would have felt comfortable to just strike up a conversation with a stranger, but she was very receptive to it and continued the conversation.
Right. That's something I struggle with, because I'm just like, let me put in these earbuds and not talk to anybody.
Yeah, and
but there's something you can learn from everyone. Everyone, like you, everyone has a good story to tell, you know?
And also, people can help you tremendously, like making these connections through networking, you know, like stuff that I remember hearing about in high school, like, oh, networking, it's so important and everything. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever that means, you know. But then I found that, it's amazing, the opportunities that you can gain from networking are amazing. So I think everybody has something that you can learn from them, something to maybe offer to your life, and maybe you to them. Hopefully, you know, that's always nice to be able to positively impact someone else. And so that was a huge goal for me, was to kind of cross that bridge. And there were some other things too that I kind of had my, my long-reaching goals set with this trip that, I thought it was going to be different ways and all this stuff. And I ended up learning lessons about questions I never even thought to ask before. I think that was really valuable. But when I was in Asia, I felt kind of aimless, and I sat down and decided on my goal, and my goal is to spend 6 months in every continent. And so that's what's next for me, is to focus on sort of the last two continents. I haven't quite spent 6 months in Europe yet, but to focus on the last two right now. So I'm going to New Zealand next, but it's going to be a trip through Asia on the way down. It's going to be a bit different. The trip this time a bit more planned. I've already purchased all the flights in between. It was a lot cheaper to purchase them ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I don't like to have necessarily.
Then you're like, I don't
like to have a deadline like that where I need to get to the airport and leave, because that kind of takes away a lot of the opportunities.
Right.
But I'm trying to time everything out with the seasons so that I can take different seasonal jobs in different places. So I'm going a bit quicker, and I'm traveling with Benny. He's going to be coming with me.
That'll be fun.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to travel with someone else. Sort of the full time. I mean, I'm always traveling with other people, but I've never really traveled with like a friend from home, and we're, planning to stick together pretty much the whole time and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. And
when you guys get done, you'll both have to come on and talk.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really
when you're both in town.
I'm really excited to kind of switch it up and do something a bit different. So I'm kind of taking on a little bit more, I guess maybe of a planning role.
Right.
And I'm trying to do a little bit more planning and keep things together a little bit more, rather than when I'm by myself, I just, I don't really think about that stuff at all. I just go with the flow.
So Asia to New Zealand.
Yeah, and we're going down to New Zealand and be there for a year, because there's these two working holiday visas, the one in Australia that I've done and the one in New Zealand. I'm getting closer to 30, and 30 is when you can't do the visa anymore. So
30 or 35?
30.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought you said 35 earlier.
Oh, I may have, but as far as I know, it's 30 right now. Yeah.
Clock's ticking.
They might change it. Yeah. So, anyways, I have the plan to go there, but then I also, to complete my goal is to spend 6 months in Africa and 6 months in Antarctica. So those will be what I'm setting my sights on
after
next.
Post New Zealand?
Yeah, after New Zealand.
You want to go straight from New Zealand?
I'd like to go back to Alaska after New Zealand and work up there for a season, and then hopefully go straight to Antarctica from there.
Is there work opportunities in Antarctica?
So yeah, in the and in the winter too, but in the summer mostly in Antarctica, there's work opportunities down there. So that's what I'm looking for. So
that's crazy.
It's my dream destination. It's been my dream for a long time to go there. I've always wanted to. It was like growing up, I wanted to be an explorer.
Right.
Like one of the people a few hundred years ago, or whenever, that was just finding new ground.
Well, you better keep those journals going every day.
I'm definitely gonna keep.
Because you got to write a book after that.
Yeah,
6 months, 6 continents, or something. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna keep the journals going and try to, see what comes into my mind from it. But yeah, Antarctica, and then hopefully Africa. I have a few countries that I have in mind there that I want to visit, and I'll go to 6 different countries there and spend a month in each country. I usually like to spend at least a month in a country. And I want to, meet people that live in these areas. I know in Antarctica there aren't really any local people to meet down there, but that'll be a different experience in itself. But I always try to meet local people and try to have some kind of understanding of what their life is like, when you see the news and they're talking about some faraway country on the other side of the world that just had a hurricane, and you see all these devastating photos or a tsunami or whatever, and I want to be able to know, people from that area and
know what it's kind of like.
Well, just to understand more, because I feel like we're living in a more globalized society every day, and it's just getting to the point where we need to know each other and understand each other, and that's a really difficult thing to say, I think, and it would take a lifetime to just know and understand one other place, but to just have a little snippet of it, and a friend to call and say, hey, like, are you doing okay? How's everything going over there? Like, it's like calling your neighbor, but it's somebody on the other side of the world, and I want that to be my neighborhood, kind of everyone. I think it'd be, I think someday the world will be like that, and I think we're kind of on the brink with the way the internet is now, and
it's getting there for sure.
Social media and everything, it's getting more and more closed. I mean, you can look at Snapchat videos right now from somebody's phone in Ethiopia if you wanted to, and stuff. So
real time.
Yeah, everything. Exactly. And so as technology advances more and more, we can either decide to embrace our new neighbors or to not do that, and I want to do that. So that's a big thing for me as well. So that's part of my 6 months is to definitely form relationships.
Along with those relationships, kind of how you talked about, you wanted to build that foundation early in your life. You're going to have those relationships hopefully for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you can come back to those people. You can say, hey, I'm bringing my family to Africa, we need a place to stay.
I've talked to different friends about that. We're talking about how maybe
we're friends for life.
In 20 years, we'll meet up again and have kids and all that stuff. So, yeah, certain people stick with you,
Yeah.
And so...
That's cool.
Yeah, I enjoy that about it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story. I know we didn't even talk that much about traveling, but there's still so much countries to cover and experiences to cover. But I want to have you back on once you're done.
Sounds good.
Conquering the globe and everything, man. So, best place to follow you, Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram's probably the best. I'm going to try to be more active on it this time around and get some more photos. I've been trying to get into photography a little bit and stuff, so
make sure to post.
Instagram.
I want to see some of the good and the bad. Don't make it all pretty.
Okay, that's
we want the real raw.
That's a good challenge.
Yeah,
I've thought about doing some other stuff, but I just like to go as light as possible.
Yeah,
and so the cell phone camera.
Hey, cell phone cameras
they can do a lot.
Yeah,
they can do a lot. But
iPhone 10.
Yeah, my Instagram probably right now is the best place, and I'm trying to post some more photos
and I'll post the link in my bio and everything, so everyone can get a hold of you and follow your journey.
That would be the best for me. I meet people who are talking about how they might want to travel similarly too, and for me it was meeting people who had done it before that helped me. So if I could give someone some advice or connect them to someone else who could help them out, that would be the best. Yeah, so get a hold of them, guys, if you got any questions or anything. Other than that, I think we're done. All right. It's time to go eat dessert.
Sounds good to me. All right, see you.